Welcome to the Power in Motion podcast, the show for women who want to develop a kinder relationship with their body so you can feel healthy, happy, and confident without restricting food, doing torturous exercise, or constantly worrying about the number on the scale. I'm your host, Kim Hagel, size-inclusive fitness specialist and certified non-diet health and life coach specializing in body image. This podcast is here to provide weight-neutral, health at every size aligned information and coaching on sustainable habits and mindset shifts so you can feel your very best in the body you have right now. Let's lace up our runners and go for a walk while we chat. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Joyful Movement Show. I have a really special interview for you folks today. I'm joined by Jemma, who is a client in my Right Body for Me program. We've been working together for the past 4 months, and Jemma has a really powerful story of transformation to share. As you'll hear in the interview, Jemma lives in a large body. She's comfortable using fat as a neutral descriptor, so that's the language that you'll hear in the interview. And as such, she's faced incredible discrimination, stigma, and fatphobia throughout her life. She'll share with you just a few examples of the challenges she's faced and how they've affected her body image, her relationship to movement and food, but most importantly, her belief in her own self-worth. It's a really powerful interview, and I will put the content warning out there that if you're triggered by hearing about medical weight stigma, fat shaming, and anti-fat bias, this might not be the episode for you. At the same time, Jemma experienced an amazingly powerful transformation in her mindset and her self-worth, so I would encourage you to listen to hear what's possible. Now, if you're new to my community, Right Body for Me, the program that Jemma took, is my transformative one-to-one coaching program that helps women really get to the root of their struggles with food, movement, and body image. We use the self-coaching model, which is a tool from cognitive behavioral therapy that helps you identify and challenge those negative core beliefs that are keeping you from having the life and results you desire. It's truly nothing short of miraculous what I've seen shift for the women who've taken this program. It's really my most favorite part of my job. So if you listen to Jemma's story and you resonate with it and you're thinking you need this kind of support and transformation in your life, then I encourage you to fill out an application to work with me in Right Body for Me. It truly would be my honor to walk beside you as you ditch diet culture and step into the life that you deserve. Okay, so before we hear from Jemma, I have one other little warning. We did have some technical issues recording this episode. There was a weird buzz on my microphone throughout the whole interview. So I've tried to fix it up as best I can. You will notice some edits and a bit of background noise. I truly apologize for that, but I did not want to redo the interview because the content was just so good. And I think the authenticity would have been lost if we tried again. So hopefully you can get past the audio and are inspired by Jemma's touching story. Welcome to the Joyful Movement Show, Jemma.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, it's my pleasure. I am so happy that you're here, and I'm excited for our listeners to hear your story because it's always inspiring to me to see how far my clients come, and you are no exception. You have made some brilliant breakthroughs in your thoughts and your opinions of yourself and your relationship to food and movement over the last little bit, but I'm not going to give that all away. I want you to share your story, but I'm really excited that you're here. So would you like to get us started by telling us a little bit about yourself and how it is that we came to know each other, how we started working together?
Yeah. Thank you for all of that, by the way. I'm looking forward to reflecting on it. So, I have to think long and hard about the question of who are you? Tell us a bit about yourself, because I don't wish to be defined by my occupations or achievements anymore. So, lacking a better answer, I'll just settle on being a fat, able-bodied white woman.
Okay.
And I discovered intuitive eating around April 2020, so like at the start of the UK's lockdown. And I've been learning about health at every size, which has helped me recover from a disordered relationship with my body and with food. And I found your program, Right Body for Me, when I was searching for something that could help me with my relationship to movement specifically. And that's kind of what we've been working through for the last 4 months, amongst other things. And those are the biggest breakthroughs that I feel like I've gone on the journey with you.
Yeah, let's unpack that a little bit. Like you say, you had already had some knowledge about intuitive eating and health at every size, and you'd done some work on your body image, but relationship to movement was a big roadblock for you when we met. Can you elaborate on what it looked like specifically? Like, what was the roadblock?
So just a bit of history. I grew up with parents that were always trying to shrink their bigger bodies through food restriction, over-exercising for short periods of time. And then they were just mostly sedentary. And I remember struggling with movement forever, or exercise, as I would have called it back then, feeling not good enough in classes, or like, I don't know if you do the bleep test, where you have to like run from one end. I was always the first one out. Horrendous. Me too. Yes.
Don't even get me started on fitness testing in schools. That's a topic for another day.
So, yeah, and things like that always made me hyper aware of my body and my lack of fitness. And so to me, movement was simply a form of weight loss. And it was a huge effort, and I just didn't enjoy it. Didn't enjoy feeling bad about myself, didn't enjoy being out of breath, didn't enjoy the feeling of failure, I suppose, is what it equated to. So as I'm sure lots of listeners and bigger bodies are unrepresented in many industries, and in our society, nobody sets out wanting to be fat. So that in itself made me feel like I didn't belong. Without having clothes of appropriate sizes, that's the world's literally saying you don't fit in. And it made me feel like I wasn't deserving of positive experiences. And, so often the fat person in films is dumb or evil, and it's really damaging. So I would try everything to change my fat body. But my DNA always seemed to be fighting against me. We've talked about doctors before in our sessions, and that's been a really big one for me. Medical weight stigma. They would say just eat salad or eat less of X food group. Salt has been the most recent one for me. And just move more. Just move more. And, you'll lose weight, which it's been really difficult to learn respect for my body type, which is blamed for so much. And I've been trying to unlearn all of that stuff whilst being told the stuff that I'm trying to actively disbelieve. So that's been a real mind game for me. And it's not something I'm in control of. Yeah. So, medical weight stigma has been a real big core belief, evidence of core belief that I've had to unpack in order to move forwards with my relationship to movement, because it has always just been just move more and you'll lose weight. And that's what movement was.
Right. So it's pretty hard to enjoy something when it feels like torture. And when you're told that the only reason why you would do it, or that you must do it, really, it wasn't even that you should do it, you must do it to control your body size, which is, quote, a problem for so many arbitrary reasons that aren't even true. And like you say, it wasn't within your control. Like, we know this, right? Like, we have genetics and all kinds of other factors that play into our body size, and it's not within our immediate control. And we've talked a number of times about the research being abundantly clear that even if you can lose weight, being able to keep it off for more than 3 to 5 years is literally impossible. 95% of people will put their weight back on. So, you know that logically. and you've been working to change your thoughts around your body size and your worth, regardless of the amount of space that you take up. And yet the relationship to movement undoubtedly is difficult because all you've ever heard from the time you were a child is do this to control your body, and you're internalizing, well, it doesn't work anyways and it feels awful, so why would I do it? Is that a good summary?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It just, even being in the waiting room for going into these appointments, like you're worried about the chairs that are there. And it's a really, really awful experience. And you're waiting in a room that you don't feel comfortable in, and you're being told, for whatever reason, that your body is the reason that you're unwell, or so for me, in my case, because of my BMI, I'm being told that I can't access fertility treatment in the UK. And again, to be like denied the chance of parenthood, which other people in smaller bodies get, it is really, really heartbreaking. So with all of that going on in my mind, no wonder it was so difficult to make any kind of breakthrough with that.
Yeah. Are you willing to share a little bit about the different health conditions that you have, Jemma?
Yeah, of course. So I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, but the diagnosis for that, like most women, get told when they're like, 18, you've got PCOS and you're probably never going to be able to have kids. Whereas at 31 years old, I had all of the symptoms and I had to ask the doctor, are you going to diagnose me with polycystic ovarian syndrome? Because I have the syndrome list, and I have 3 of the 4 things that you're supposed to have. And it's like, are you actually going to give me a diagnosis, or are you just going to continue blaming my body that all of these things are happening? So yeah, I have polycystic ovarian syndrome. I have high blood pressure, fatty liver disease, and I'm sure there's something else. Something to do with my kidneys, but I don't actually know what it is. Oh, I also have a hypothyroid. So I've got all of the things. I'm really, really lucky.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're not lucky at all. And we've talked about this, and as we've worked through some coaching, I always think it's interesting that you were so often prescribed weight loss as a treatment for your PCOS and your hypothyroidism specifically, when the thing about those conditions is that they're known to cause difficulties and problems with metabolism, making weight gain a side effect of having those conditions. Like, it's more difficult for someone with these conditions to control their weight. I would argue it's impossible for anyone to control their weight, but even more so when you're facing these conditions because it affects your metabolism. And the weight gain is a result of the conditions, not the cause of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is interesting because not once has that ever been acknowledged in an appointment, in a medical appointment. They always just kind of either heavily allude to or just point blank say losing weight will help your condition. So that message I've been told so many times, and like I say, it's either been spelled out to me or heavily alluded to. And with that and trying to work through Right Body for me has been this constant like shift between my brain telling me that like the people who are supposed to help and support me with my health conditions are telling me that I need to lose weight and telling me that my weight is the problem, telling me in no uncertain terms that my body is the problem. I am the problem. But then going through Right Body for me, trying to unlearn that message, it's so difficult to live in a society that is disagreeing with all of the things that feel counterintuitive.
Yeah, and I want to be really careful in having this conversation because I have a lot of respect for doctors, and I don't want anybody to take this as us bashing the medical community. I don't want to paint them with a bad brush. I think it's merely just a lack of education about health at every size. But we also have to recognize the lived experience of those in larger bodies and how medical weight stigma affects people who are living in larger body, and then how that in turn affects their access to quality health care. And really, the truth is that weight is really not within our immediate control, and it can often be a symptom of a condition, not the cause of. So, prescribing weight loss really doesn't help you to improve your physical health, and is further damaging your relationship with food and movement. But I really want to talk about, like, mentally, what did you start to believe about yourself through all of that?
Well, I agree with you. I don't feel like it's an individual problem. It's a systemic problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, when you've heard it from so many people, you just start to believe that there's nothing good about you, that you're a bad person, that, like I said, I don't belong anywhere. I'm not good enough. I'm wrong and just a complete failure at life because I'm big, and that must mean I'm a bad person.
Yep. So then all the actions that you were engaging in were to try to fix yourself. Am I right?
Absolutely, yeah. And it would turn into a really horrible relationship with myself, relationship with food, relationship with my body, where I would not eat the whole day, because I was told, like, food is the enemy, so I would restrict all day, and my colleagues would be like, don't you get hungry? I'm like, no, of course I don't. And then as soon as I get home, I'd eat anything in sight. And you start thinking that you're addicted to food, and then when you're told you can't be addicted to food, you're like, but of course I am, because I've restricted it all day, and I of course that's what your body does. Binging, it's trying to keep you alive. And when I learned that with intuitive eating, it was like a light bulb moment where I was like, okay, I'm not addicted to food. I can understand when people say you can't be addicted to food, but it is really what it feels like. It's like a fix. It's like you need it, and it's never enough either. It's never enough because you've kept it from yourself all day, and essentially the medical system are diagnosing eating disorders, and that's exactly what I got.
Yeah, binge eating disorder, right? And yeah, as a result of restricting, and really that's just your biology at work. It's amazing. Like, your body is so miraculous. And of course, you can't go all day without food. Your body sees that as a threat to your safety, and all your body wants is to keep you alive. So, of course, your biology is going to take over eventually. You're going to have to eat. You won't be able to control your cravings forever. And of course, then when you do eat, you're going to overeat because your brain's going like, well, she's going to restrict me again tomorrow. She might starve me again tomorrow. So I better have a lot, right?
Yeah. And I remember the conversations I would have with myself in my head in the car the next morning after a really big binge. I would just have so much guilt and so much shame and so much self-hatred until, like I say, intuitive eating helped me find self-compassion and an understanding of the biology. When you're out as a bigger person and people see you eating a sandwich, there's so much judgment. The way you eat, what's in your sandwich, how much of your sandwich do you eat? Is it a baguette? Oh my God, it's a baguette. How dare you want to eat and fuel your body? So food was a really, really tough one for me. And in turn, like I say, that relationship with my body, where I would just not look at it. I would not want to go for a shower. I would not want to, I didn't cook. Luckily, I have a husband that cooks, but I didn't cook, and I'm still terrified of the kitchen because although it's funny when you have a disordered relationship with food, some people control absolutely everything, whereas I would just not want to prepare any food because it was scary. Food was a scary thing.
Well, understandably so. And this is the whole messed up thing about diet culture is, of course, that we have this whole system of beliefs that smaller is better. And if you aren't thin, then you should be spending every waking moment and all of your energies trying to attain that, right? So this is you. You're spending all of your mental energy every waking moment obsessing about your body, hating your body, trying to change your body. And then the really messed up part of all of this is we think it's our fault that we can't do it. So, of course, no wonder you don't want to cook. No wonder you don't want to take care of yourself and have showers. Like you feel so unworthy of basic care because you've been taught that you're not worthy of love and acceptance. Am I right about that?
Definitely, yeah. And it was really difficult because, I mean, even now I'm still working through all of those things, starting to believe that I am worthy of like washing my face and buying products that align with my own beliefs rather than being just given this thing that is full of, like shampoo, for example. Like for me, it makes no sense using shampoo that strips your hair of all of its natural oils and makes it greasier the next day. Is capitalism, and it's just made me more aware of the systemic problems in our world, and I want to live my life in a way that suits my beliefs, because before I didn't have the beliefs because my time was spent obsessing over how I looked in that pair of trousers or what I said to somebody. Did I offend somebody? Overthinking some tiny thing that I was just paralyzed in a state of fear the whole time. And I had a weird sense of self-awareness, but in just all kinds of negative ways. Like I would just wake up and I'd have a bad feeling that something bad would happen at work. And it never did, because I'm not a bad person, but I just believed that someone was going to find out that I'd done something, I'd said something, and that it had upset somebody. And I was just terrified all the time.
Yeah, I get it. And that's the really interesting part about this work is, we think that we have an issue with movement, but it's so much deeper than just our relationship with movement. It always goes deeper than just the food or just our weight or just how we move our bodies, right? This whole system of oppression that tells women that we need to be small affects so much more than just our body image and our relationship to food and exercise. As you say, it infiltrates every area of your life, like shows up in how you take care of yourself, how you think and act at work, and even right down to what kind of shampoo you use. All those thoughts are stemming from this one core belief. And what would you say? Can you pinpoint that one core belief that's behind all of these thoughts and all of this behavior?
So not taking care of myself is I am not worthy. I add nothing. I add nothing to the world. So why bother? Why would I do any of those things? Because I'm a bad person. Yeah. I'm fat. I'm ugly. I'm lazy. I'm all of the bad things. So what is the point in me?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, it breaks my heart to hear that. And I know you're not the only woman in the world who thinks this way. So I think it's really powerful that you're sharing this story and being so open and vulnerable. But we're not going to stay here because I know you don't think that way anymore, do you?
And I can say that now without getting really emotional, because at the start of this, I would just burst into tears at the start of our working together, saying that out loud, because it's really freaking sad to believe that about yourself. And I really, really believed it. Like there was maybe there was like a 1% doubt in my mind that I was a good person, because it was like black and white thinking of like, no, I am all right. I'm good at this. I'm good at that. I tried really hard here. So looking at external validation, which again, wasn't helpful.
Yeah. And like you say, I think there must have been just a glimmer of belief in yourself, like just a little glimmer of knowing that you're worthy of something different because you showed up to do the work. And you wouldn't have if you really believed you didn't deserve to. So let's talk a little bit about how this shift started to happen. And specifically, let's deal with the movement part of things. So movement was always a difficult one for you because you felt broken and like your body was wrong. And the idea of movement for you was to fix your body and change your body, and it didn't work anyways. And I remember maybe about halfway through our time together, we started talking about movement as self-care. And you kind of reacted to that too, because self-care seemed like something you should do to fix yourself. So what helped to bridge the gap? What thought process helped make you become willing to explore moving?
So, yeah, for a lot of the time, until about halfway through, like you say, I was just so stuck. I felt really unsafe, so I stayed in my head. And you identified that fairly early on for me. So I could, and I've said it before in our own sessions, like I can outthink myself so quickly. I would try and get that new thought, but then there would be 10 other contradictory thoughts. So it was really something that you said about just staying curious about how movement feels in your body. And that was the turning point for me. So the start of it happened when my husband and my dog went to the beach, and it was a lovely, beautiful day, and I was doing all of the things to like manage my mind because we forgot sun cream. And usually that would send me over the edge. It was there were no clouds in the sky, very unusual for the UK. And the one thing we forgot, and we both burn really easily. So anyway, the sun cream. And I would have been fuming before. I would have lost it. Whereas my husband, who is just the most patient person in the world for me, not anything else, he's, furious at everything else, but for some reason has all the patience in the world for me. He walked to the shop to get some sun cream, and I was sat there with a dog who is a hyperactive hunting dog, so I could have very easily just strangled him. But instead, I just lied back and I just took a deep breath. And I rolled my shoulders back and I opened my heart and relaxed the muscles around my heart. And I just experienced being in that moment, like how beautiful the sky was and the insects flying around, and just something changed in me. And then we got the sun cream, we creamed up, and nobody died. And I was fine. And just, by the way, we still both got a little bit burnt, but mostly fine. But anyway, onto the movement. It was just going in and out of the sea, just having a good time with the dog, lying down for 5 minutes, going back into the sea because the dog seems to love swimming and we both enjoy it, and it was just really chilled. And in our session, in our one-to-one, I realized that is what joyful movement is for me right now. And it was this click moment where I was like, okay, so I can do it. I can do joyful movement. It wasn't about how fast or how far I could swim in under a minute, which is what I would usually do because I love swimming, but it was always this competition with myself and I could never quite get wherever it was that I wanted to go. And rather than focusing on how many calories I'd lost in a lap, it was literally just walking into the sea and just paddling about. It wasn't about doing a proper breaststroke or front crawl or kicking off the back of the pool or whatever and just feeling like a boss. It was just really chilled. And yeah, I just realized that is what joy is when you're moving.
Yeah, you just played, right?
Yeah, we were just mucking about.
Yeah, so forgetting that whole idea that it has to look like exercise and it has to have a goal and an outcome and a calorie burn and look a certain way to count, when you just organically removed all those expectations and allowed yourself to play, you had fun.
It was fun, and it was like the gates opening into what it means and how to get those kinds of thoughts into my own, like how to get that into real life, because the beach is quite far away for us. And although like I'm sure love to do that more often, it's just not feasible, particularly when it's like, you know, freezing cold. So then we went to Scotland, and that was another really big turning point, because it was our holiday, and it was raining and muddy, and everything was really far away, so everything was already on. It was just a horrendous time. So I messaged you in an SOS, like, oh my God, I'm sat here crying in the car, help. And we worked through the thoughts, and we kind of realised that after having both recently read Gay Hendrix's The Big Leap, that it was something to do with my upper limit, with movement. And I've kind of thought about this before. Again, being in the UK, it rains a lot. So going out in the rain, it was always like an excuse, like, oh no, I can't, no, I'm not going out in the rain, I'm going to get wet, I'm not going to enjoy it. So instead of having those thoughts, it was like, okay, I can experience the rain on my skin safely and walk anyway. And I did like a whole core belief model, which really helped me understand that it was about giving myself an upper limit with movement in like new places. If the circumstances weren't perfect, I wouldn't do it. So that really helped me just identify how I can welcome positive experiences into my life despite the circumstances not being perfect, and particularly around movement. So we went on this walk. It was really wet and raining, and I was able to see good things. And that was the time when my calves started to tense up, and it was quite painful for part of the walk. But then I carried on walking, and within like 15 minutes that pain had gone. So it was all about just like being curious. And then that, for the next day, enabled me to go on a hike, which was up a really quite steep hill, and really like unmanicured ground, rocks, and all the hiking goodness of the Scottish lands. And I cried going all the way down. No, not all the way down. Halfway down? 3/4 of the way down. And I was just trying. Luckily, nobody was around, because otherwise, you know, I wouldn't have had that pure, vulnerable experience. But I was just crying, watching the dog, having the time of his life. My husband was just there, just experiencing it with me. And I was just telling myself, like, you are safe. You can take this at your own pace. You can be curious. And that point helped me check in with my body rather than my thoughts. So I was constantly like, how are your legs feeling? And my legs were absolutely fine. Your legs are fine. Your back is fine. Your body is fine. It's your head, your brain, that is telling you that you can't do this. That is controlling this experience and putting a ceiling on this time on your holiday, basically. So yeah, and it all happened in like a week of each other. And yeah, it's kind of just changed the way that I can access the thoughts about movement, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And I love how you've learned to connect with your body to help inform what you're feeling, instead of relying on your brain, because you have old programming in your brain, as you're now aware, right? That when things are hard, when they're not perfect, when you're out of breath, you interpret that to mean that you can't do this, or that you're out of shape, or you're unfit, or that you're lazy. And like there's all this judgment on yourself because of this old programming and these old thoughts. So this is great. But when you brought it back to your body, and just assessing how the movement feels within you, you realize it's okay. It's safe. You feel okay. You can manage it. You can do hard things. And that this is how we build our strength. This is how we build our endurance and our stamina. And, you know, now to feel safe to challenge that upper limit, because you're aware of that old programming, and you can see that they're just old thoughts that you no longer have to believe. And as we talked about, we call that building up your evidence bank. You saw some evidence that you can do these things, that movement can be joyful. And that's how you start to build the belief that things can be different, and it starts to disprove those old thoughts.
Yeah. And it was me not letting myself enjoy our time away that was the problem. And it was like grounded in the thought of like, of course I'm not letting myself enjoy it. I hate myself. I'm fat. Of course I'm having a shit time. I'm a complete failure. I'm, like you say, I'm unfit. Why would I enjoy this walk? How could I enjoy this walk? Because my body is incapable. I am incapable. I'm not good enough.
Yes, totally. That I'm not good enough. Old programming coming back up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everything kind of comes back to that or that about. And after that walk, I got in the car with my husband, and we kind of, when we were talking about it, and the first thing I said to him was like, I'm so grateful that my body could just do that. My body could do that. My body was fine. I am capable and able to do those things, and I can be grateful for that, as well as him at times pulling me up the hill and the dog being not a barky mess.
Yes, it's true. You can be grateful for those things too. But yeah, you're right. Like gratitude is the precursor to joy. And when we can find something to be grateful for in the moment, it opens us up to being receptive for joy to come in.
And I think the other thing that was really helpful that I realized, or that you like spelled out, is that, are you expecting things to always be good? Are you hoping or whatever that life is good 100% of the time? Because it's not. Life is 50% shit and 50% good. It's possible to feel neutral about either thing.
Right.
And in the same moment as well, but like, it's okay to feel disappointed. It's okay to feel any of those feelings, but those feelings don't have to control my actions.
Absolutely.
And I would say I'm a very emotional, potentially volatile person. And many times I have been like incapacitated by thoughts because I thought like, I'm doing something wrong. There's something wrong with me. Why me? Why is it happening to me? And yes, those are victim thoughts, but of course they are, because I didn't feel safe, because I made everything mean things about me because I'm fat. And when I was able to put into practice, like, if the dog barks, it means nothing about me. If people see me get out of breath, it means nothing about me. And in our most recent one-to-one, it was lovely to learn that the goal of movement isn't to be good at it. And I, rather than thinking I'm unfit, I'm lazy, I don't move my body and I hate getting out of breath, it can be, I'm working my heart right now and this is how I make my heart strong. And when I think of like my best friend who is also in a bigger body, if I think of her when she's out of breath, I don't think anything. I was able to identify that it just means, if I get out of breath, it just means I'm a person out of breath. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't need to make it mean anything about me.
Yeah, you're right. And that's the power of our thoughts. You're right. It doesn't need to mean anything about you. It can simply mean that you're a person who's out of breath at the moment. And as you say, it's an opportunity to work on your heart, to strengthen your heart. And like you say, when your legs are tired, that means they're getting stronger. We can choose to interpret these things to mean something bad about us, which again relates to that old programming that you have in your brain about it meaning something bad about yourself because you're in a larger body and there's something wrong with you. But the truth is, we all experience sensations in our body when we move, no matter what size of body we're in. If we're going to make progress in our fitness, then we need to feel things when we challenge ourselves, right? We're going to feel out of breath. We're going to feel our heart pound in our chest. We're going to feel our legs having to work. So having that compassion yourself and changing those to more neutral thoughts, that's huge progress.
I was just going to say, like, even the language, you're making your legs stronger or your heart stronger, even that was like a red flag to me, because it meant that my heart was weak or that I was weak. And like you say, it was coming and still is coming. I'm still working on the thoughts of trying to not make it about fixing myself because my heart is weak, so I have high blood pressure or whatever. Like, it's just about feeling the sensation sensations in my body and not making them mean anything about me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so let's bring this back full circle. We've talked a number of times today about how all of the difficulty you were facing really stems from this core belief of not being worthy, not feeling deserving of acceptance and love, even from yourself. So, what has shifted there? What do you now believe to be true about your worth and your value, Jemma?
That's a really good question. I think if I have bad days, I can just kind of neutralize the thoughts and I can manage them in my mind of like, if I think to myself, I'm a fat person, I'm a person. And particularly with movement, like if I didn't want to do a dog walk, or if I tried it and stopped halfway through, or a couple of steps through, even I can just neutralize the thoughts and know that it means nothing about me, because my worth is not based on those things. My worth is that I am a person and everybody is intrinsically worthy, and that's it. I don't know, like, people, particularly women, have to have a purpose and we have to have a goal, and we have to be working towards something to push us forward, to make us valid people. Mm-hmm. But now I can kind of step back and be like, I am deserving of all of the good things and the bad things, and I know now that being neutral and sort of experiencing those things, I think most importantly, the question that I have kind of magpied from you is, how do you want to feel?
Yeah. And
when I remember that question, it is really supportive, because I can say, right, okay, I have an opportunity now to, like, it's, whatever time I can have a 10-15 minute walk with the dog. How do I want to feel? Do I want to feel fresh, or just uplifted a little bit by just going outside, or do I want to feel coddled, and do I want to stay inside? So it depends on how I want to feel in that moment, rather than my thought of I can't be bothered. It's okay, let's just dig into that a little bit and think about what will be the most supportive thing for you right now. And neither has any moral value.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like, whether you decide to go for the walk or whether you decide to stay in and watch TV, it really makes no difference morally, like nothing whatsoever. But where does the I can't be bothered thought get you, right? It's thinking and seeing that thought through and going, how does that thought make me feel? What will my behavior be if I'm believing this thought? And I know we've talked about this. The I can't be bothered thought leads you into all kinds of self-judgment. So then it's going instead, well, how do I want to feel? And then you can choose what will be most supportive for you right in that moment. Like, do I need to rest? And would it help my emotional and mental state to stay in and watch TV? Then do that. If it would help me to get outside and clear my head in the fresh air, then do that. But it's a conscious choice.
Definitely.
Okay, so if I would have asked you this question 3 or 4 months ago, you would have stared blankly at me and had nothing to say. And that's the beauty of all this work. And the question is, what does joyful movement mean to you?
Yeah, I think it's about chasing the feeling, connecting to my body and challenging my thoughts about I can't be bothered. And I love the whole not having to be good at it, and learning about not just aerobic and anaerobic fitness, but actually what goes on inside your body when you are moving it. Only today you sent me a really interesting article which I've been reading, and it helps to reframe the thoughts about it. And when you find something that speaks to you in your unique circumstance, it's it's just really helpful to kind of hinge those new thoughts on, because when you don't have any evidence, or when you have very little evidence, like joyful movement for me, I don't have that much evidence to suggest that it can be genuinely joyful. So I found something that was about intentional movement rather than joyful movement. And for me, intentional movement is something I can access better. And it's about how, and that intentional movement for me is about how I want to feel.
Yeah.
How does it make me feel to do that movement? Not does it make me a better person, not what does it make me think about myself, but in my body, in my legs. And I don't know why it goes to my legs a lot of the time, but my brain just checks in with them the first thing. That's what happens. And my legs 9 times out of 10 feel strong. They feel capable and able and willing. And when I have that thought of like, my legs are I'm so strong, I can then move forward rather than going back into I can't be bothered, because I don't want to face the thoughts of you can't do it, you're not capable, you don't have this level of fitness. So joyful movement right now, the way to access it for me is intentional movement. And I think just looking out for days at the beach where movement is joyful without being structured, and then putting those experiences into something else if I choose to do so.
Yeah, like we said, that's the building of your evidence bank, right? It's those beautiful days that allow you to believe that it's possible to experience joy in movement.
Yes. And it was really joyful.
Oh, I know it was. And this was such a powerful share, Jemma. You have been so open and vulnerable, and I know that your story and your experiences will resonate with the people who are listening, and it will help them. So I really want to express my gratitude to you for coming on the show and sharing so openly with my listeners.
No worries. It was a pleasure. I'm surprised I got through it without crying.
Well, it just speaks to the strength that's within you, and that knowing that's within you, that you are worthy and capable. And, I can honestly say that that's the shift that I've seen most profoundly over the last 4 months. And it's been an honor to witness and an honor to work with you. And I wish you continued success.
Thank you. And I quite seriously mean that I could not have done it without you.
Oh, well, thank you. That's appreciated. And I always I feel like I was just the facilitator. You did the work, honestly.
Well, I was in a really, really stuck place before Right Body for Me. So I'm, like I say, really grateful that we were working together, and it's gotten me to the next stage in this recovery journey. So thank you very much, Kim.
Absolutely. All the best.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, friends. Jemma and I had a brief conversation after the recording ended, which I wanted to share with you. And she said, I hope that what I said can help someone. So I said to her, I know it will. I know for sure that Jemma is not the only one to have faced such discrimination and stigma. It's so unfortunate, but we live in a patriarchal, fat-phobic society that has very rigid expectations about how women are supposed to look and behave. So what I said to Jemma is that when we stand up against these systems and you have the guts to own your worth, and not only that, but to share about it, you give other women permission to do the same. And that's how systems change. That's the power of transformation. It's not just about you. It's really about changing the world. So I hope that you've been inspired, that Jemma's story has got you thinking about your own worth and value, and how if you really knew how valuable you were, what might be possible for you. And should you need any help figuring that out, then I am just an email away. So you can learn more about Right Body for Me or my other program, Discover Joyful Movement, on my website, which is www.radiantvitality.ca. And of course, you can always keep in touch on my social channels. My tag is at Radiant Vitality Wellness. I will see you back here next week with more non-diet motivation. And in the meantime, be well. And here's to your Radiant Vitality.
Thanks for tuning into the Power in Motion podcast today. If you love what you're learning here, then I invite you to take the next step of embodying these concepts into your own life so that you can live your healthiest, happiest life and never again feel held back by your body. Coaching is the fastest, most efficient pathway to taking what you know in your head to actually applying it and seeing results. Whether you're looking to make changes around movement, food, body image, or all three, I'm here to help you nurture a kind, respectful, and trusting relationship with your body so you can feel your very best. Click the link in the show notes to book a free consultation, and together we'll uncover what's getting in the way of you having the results you want. You'll leave this call knowing exactly what you need to work on, and together we'll explore whether one of my coaching offers is a good fit for you. I can't wait to meet you.